In D&D 3.5, most fencing weapons and some other were considered so-called light weapons that could be used with a weapon finesse feat. In GURPS, all weapon skills are based on dexterity. What makes fencing weapons different from the others? In this video, I'll tell you everything about this weapon category. First of all, fencing weapons do not belong to a single skill, but to 5 skills. All 5 are average difficulty dexterity-based skills. Rapier covers all long, light, thrusting swords. Saber covers all light cut and thrust swords. Small sword covers short, light, thrusting swords or one-handed short staffs and sticks. Main gauche is a skill of wielding a knife or a jitte/sai in the offhand. Finally, GURPS martial arts added the 4th Saber skill on page 215 that deals with fencing energy blades. Now let's take a look at the weapon table. As you can see, rapiers are thrusting blades. Wait, why is there a swinging cutting attack? Shouldn't cut and thrust fencing blades be covered by the Saber skill? Why is there only one saber in the table? Why is the saber identical to the light edge rapier except being slightly lighter? What is going on here? I found 2 chrome posts on the forums that shed some light on this. On rapiers. Real-world rapiers have edges. Like swords with blunt tips, rapiers with blunt edges are a weird GURPSism dating to man-to-man. It would be nice if we could change edged rapier to rapier and thrusting broadsword to arming sword or something. But we're stuck with the convention. On sabers. The GURPS fencing saber is neither a cavalry saber nor a sport saber. It's actually a third thing that comes closest to a daha or a shortish katana. It isn't entirely fictional, but it comes close. It's in the game to cover things like sleek, curving elven blades, and to allow those who want katanas to work like fencing weapons to have something suitable. I tend to agree that the issue is more one of categorization than of omission. Quite a few styles that lead broadsword are functionally saber styles, and the saber/small sword split probably wasn't well thought out. If I could do it over again, I would probably reduce the number of fencing skills from 4, main gauche, rapier, saber and small sword, to 3, main gauche, rapier and small sword, reinstituted the short staff skill, and tossed anything called a saber under broadsword, rapier or short sword, depending on length and heft. So if you do not like the saber-rapier skill split, feel free to remove the saber skill, or leave it as is. The saber is superior to the light-edged rapier, but it needs its own skill to offset that. I also expanded the saber skill with the D&D Elven Court Blade, it works perfectly there. Now let's actually inspect the tables. As you can see, almost all rapiers appear on TL4, with only Dian appearing on TL3. Some of them can only thrust, but some can also cut. But remember that even with a thrust-only rapier, you can deal cutting damage with a tip slash. The damage bonuses are not good. Thrust +1 and unmodified or even penalized wing is definitely not something to write home about. Reach is pretty good. Being able to hit at reach 1 and reach 2 will help you keep the enemy at bay. Being unable to fight in close combat is a downside, but as a fencer, you should not let anyone come that close to you. Weight ranges from 2 to 3 pounds. 3-pounders should only worry about their weapon being broken when facing an enemy with a two-handed axe, mace, or a polearm, while lighter rapiers and sabers have many more weapons to worry about. Strength requirements are okay, from 9 to 10, so even an average character will be able to wield a rapier. Cost ranges from high to very high, so if you want a more affordable rapier, apply the cheap quality modifier. Improving your rapier will cost a lot too. And now let's take a look at the primary advantage of fencing weapons, fencing parry. See the F in the parry column? That's what it means. When you are wielding a fencing weapon, you get a +3 bonus to parry when you are retreating, so it rewards mobility. This bonus makes it very hard to hit you. However, all fencing weapon attacks and parries are penalized for encumbrance. It should be clarified that medium encumbrance applies -2 to both attacks and parries, not -2 to attacks and -1 to parries. The Armor Familiarity perk can mitigate this penalty. As a fencer, you should always be aware of your surroundings to be able to retreat for that sweet +3 bonus. Also, when you use a fencing weapon, you get halved cumulative parry penalties, which helps immensely. And the final downside is that you cannot parry flails at all. Before I talk about techniques and other stuff, let's take a look at the small sword table. There are only 3 weapons, the TL0 short staff and 2 TL4 blades. These weapons are much lighter than rapiers and hence prone to breakage. However, they are also cheaper and have a much lower strength requirement. The dress small sword can even be used in close combat. A stick is usually easy to find in a pinch, so an improvised short staff could be a good defensive weapon when you do not have anything else. And the final table is the main gauche table. It is comprised of weapons from other categories, namely knife and jitte/sai, that can be used with this skill. The primary use of the main gauche skill is parrying with the offhand. As you can see, any knife that is wielded with this skill not only loses its -1 penalty to parry, but also becomes a fencing weapon. Also, since this is the primary function of the skill, main gauche parries do not take the offhand penalties. If you attack with the main gauche, then the normal penalties are applied. You can still use a main gauche with this skill in your primary hand, and you will still have a fencing parry, but you will also be able to attack at the full skill level. This is why knife is an easy skill, but main gauche is an average skill. I will not go over the weapons here because I will talk about them in more detail in the future videos. I just want to show you what weapons can be used with the main gauche skill and what benefits the skill provides. Fencing weapons also have some unique techniques. Bind weapon allows you to use a fencing weapon to bind another fencing weapon after a successful parry. You can use it offensively too. Basically, this is a form of a weapon grapple that has the possibility to disarm, and also prevents the opponent from retreating, which hampers fencing significantly. It is the most useful when you have another weapon, such as a main gauche, but you can always bind the weapon and kick the opponent in the groin, or something similar. If you are wielding a jitte with a main gauche skill, then you can use this technique to bind any weapon, not just a fencing weapon. There is also the cinematic initial carving technique for the Zorro fans out there. You can use a fencing weapon in a defensive grip. In addition to the usual effects, you become able to parry flails at the usual penalties. I am not sure if you can wield a rapier in a reversed grip, but there's nothing in the rules that says that you can't. You do penalize your defenses, so I doubt that it is worth it. And the weapon probably should not count as a fencing one in this grip. Since rapiers, sabers and small swords are swords, they also get access to the second defensive grip that allows for a finer point control. This makes your reach C only, reduces damage to thrust impaling, makes swings impossible, and removes -2 from the penalty to target chinks in armor. And that's it. If you give GURPS martial arts a thorough read, you'll find many fencing styles. All of them capitalize on mobility and defense, with such techniques as bind weapon, counterattack, disarming, feint, and targeted attack. Many have main gauche or cloak as a complementary skill. A fencing weapon would be a good choice for a new player in my opinion, as while there are not many special rules, most of them benefit your survivability and help you familiarize yourself with the combat system in general. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.